We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live.
Drop the mic with Jason Hunt. All right, so you're just hanging out by the O2 Arena in London, England right now. That's what's up.
That's where we're at, man. Just 1 minute that direction is the O2 Arena, world famous arena. The Toronto Raptors have actually played there. I was so
Have they?
Yeah, they played like maybe 3 games, and I missed them all. I regret that massively. But yeah, it's a fantastic arena. WWE shows up from time to time. Drake has played there a few times. So yeah, it's a great place to be. So welcome to London.
I love London. Anytime I'm speaking in Europe, I always try to parlay it with a trip to London where I'm checking out some sort of a sporting event, rugby match, soccer game. But I really like it. I know I don't like the price tag on a lot of stuff. They're super expensive, especially when you're paying Canadian. But it's pretty awesome. What drew you there in the first place, Anthony? What
that would be this. So I was I've been in Toronto for ages. I moved there when I was from Hong Kong when I was 8. And then I've been, I still call Toronto home. I still consider myself a Canadian and Torontonian over being a British, even though I've been in the UK for 17 years. But I was in Toronto and, those like dating websites. I threw a girl's name from across the pond. I was like, I'll never meet her in my life, ever. Just for kicks. And then 2 years later, my brother comes over to study in London. I was like, oh, make an excuse to come and visit this side of the world. And then I was like, I'm just gonna hit her up and see what she wants to hang out. We hung out. There seems to be a thing, and then 2 years of long distance relationship, and then now we got 2 kids. So that's why I'm here.
That is cool. Do your kids have an English accent or Canadian accent?
They definitely have a London accent. So my wife's Scottish. She's got a Scottish accent. I've got a Canadian accent. My kids got a London accent. My parents got a Hong Kong Chinese accent. We're all over the place.
All over the map. But you're still representing the Raptors jersey. Gotta
do it.
Yeah.
RIP Masai, but I think we'll keep going.
Yeah. Were you able to keep up to date with what happened with the Leafs during the playoff run?
I've stopped trying.
Yeah.
Because every year we just hype ourselves up, and every year we're just not quite there. So it's really hard, dude. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, you know what, man? I look, we went to Game 7 with the Stanley Cup champions and lost in Game 7. We gave them the toughest battle out of any series they had in the playoffs. And then we get all angry at our star player, Mitch Marner, for not making it to the Stanley Cup final. And then we let him go. I'm fearful for the future. But I think I don't think we had a bad season by any means. We lost to the best team in the NHL, and that's it. I'd say we're the second best team in the NHL.
Yeah, but we want that cup home, man. That's that's what we want.
100%. Well, we could talk about sports for probably hours, but our listeners want to hear more about Anthony, the B2B, the video marketing expert on LinkedIn. Because you're on episode 192. We talked a lot about B2B strategy. Your business has evolved quite a bit since, and I can tell by the content you're posting on LinkedIn. Look, when I'm looking at your content on LinkedIn, and I'm just like, you're disrupting it because you're putting out like foodie content. You know what I mean? Like, hey, like this morning, I think you had a post out there about these great pancakes that made you nostalgic about a pancake chain here in Canada or a restaurant here in Canada. And I'm just like, wow, like that's disruptive because I'm used to seeing people pushing their own agenda or frameworks and a lot of this crap that's out there on LinkedIn now. Yet most people are jigging. Most people are zigging. You're zagging, right?
Who taught me this? Of all people, it's Conan O'Brien. If you remember when he took over the Tonight Show, then he got unceremoniously fired to get replaced by Jay Leno, who he replaced in the first place. He then took 3 months to do whatever the heck he wanted with his show. Part of that was turning LinkedIn into comedy gold. He started a LinkedIn account and then he just played around with it. He go on TV and go, hey, what would happen if I put like a picture of me and like presidents? Would that like give me more clout? And so they play around with that. But my favorite thing that he did was he in his experience on LinkedIn, it said to Tonight Show temporary consultant for a year. I was like, genius. That's so for me, he opened up my mind to like what LinkedIn could be. It could be anything you want. It's anything that you have a connection with your audience. It doesn't necessarily have to be this stuffy space that I think we kind of tell ourselves we have to be in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, personally myself, my LinkedIn strategy has changed massively over the last year. Like I'd say a year ago, I was leaning in more on the automation, using platforms like WeConnect to do a lot of automating connections and, automating, conversations and messages and all that sort of stuff. And sure, it helped me definitely get my contact base up to where it is now, or my connection base, but it wasn't scalable. It wasn't closing business. If anything, it was doing everything I was trying to push against, which was contributing to the noise, and there is a lot of noise out there, and actually annoys you now to see a lot of the noise that's out there on LinkedIn now. And you appreciate more of those genuine connections, the person is genuinely reaching out, because I think like yourself, like myself, like most of us that are savvy with digital, we can sniff out an AI message a mile away.
That's the problem, right? AI has made it so easy for so many people to be mediocre so quickly. And so there's so many people that have jumped on that opportunity to be. It's better than what they are, but it's the same. And more importantly, it's not actually them. When I connected with you in Barcelona, all those like 2 years ago, or how long ago was it now?
When the summit, International Social Summit, would have been about 2 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, so there was an instant vibe that we had, and the content I see from you and our connections and our messages continue that energy, right? And that's how I know you're real. That's how I know you created your content. You actually put in the time, and it's actually your expertise. When there's so much generic noise on LinkedIn, on the internet, everywhere, Pinterest is being bombarded by AI right now. We're now craving something real. We're craving for somebody to show up and go like, oh, yeah, I might have burped in a podcast. Oh, who did the burp? It was Catherine Hahn. She was on a podcast with oh my gosh, Parks and Recs. She was on a podcast and she burped, and it was the greatest clip. And it's like, that's human. But then when someone's trying to copy and clone perfection, they will never think of that, right? So I'm not saying to burp in everything that you do, but what I'm saying is that all those things that we think were, it's our imperfections, it's actually what people are looking for to show signs of humanity. When I edit videos for my clients, I look for those signs. Is there a bit of laughter? Is there a bit of movement that really shows that it's them? And when we create content, it has to feel and sound like them. That's the hardest part. All the stuff and the knowledge is in your head, but to be able to actually present it on camera as yourself, it's harder than it sounds.
So right now, with LinkedIn where it is today, do you have a kind of a formulated approach or strategy or routine to it?
I see, and yes and no. I see where a content is going, and there's two places. One, we are naturally evolving into a video space. If you look at how TikTok has changed everything, everybody has a TikTok kind of style feed or style video. The language, if you will, of video has homogenized into that style, right? So now you can create one video and you can pop into any platform you want, and it will work. And also, like, if we did this podcast right now and there wasn't video, it'd feel kind of weird. If you had a call with somebody without video, it'd be kind of weird. So we're all naturally going towards video in the first place. And then I'm also looking at how AI has made it so easy to be mediocre. the easiest form of mediocrity is written content because a few prompts. I don't have to know anything about SEO or skippity toilet. I can create blogs on both, and it'll sound mildly credible. But can you actually deliver it in real life? I want to actually see this happen, right? If you're actually the opportunity is to use videos and look your audience dead in the eye and deliver that with your personality, with your own style, with your own experiences that AI cannot scrape because they're your own experiences. We started talking about, sports. We talked about a lot of things from Canada. Those are things that AI would not know about me. Those are things I put into my content. The food posts you talk about that I just did, it reminds me of Marche in Toronto, and I was so sad when it went down because it was one of my favorite restaurants growing up. It was one of my favorite restaurants to take my family from the UK to visit. I'm like, this is the best, and they had the world's best potato rosti, and it's gone, and I'm so sad. But now I kind of found something else. So that story could never have been scraped. And I see my interaction on that post. It's only been out like this morning, but I see people from Toronto who never engages with my content engage with that one because that's the same connection that they have. So if there's a strategy, my thinking is this. My thinking is that face to face is more important than ever. Face to face is now a verification that you are a real person, that your thoughts are real, and that what you're going to produce on the internet has a shot of being real. But in order for someone to build that trust with you, that content has to resonate with the energy that you're giving in real life. And it supports that relationship that you've built in real life, and it continues on. And because you've built that trust, they'll start cutting through all the AI noise. Because every piece of content that they see from you, they'll go, I can trust Jason. I can trust Anthony. I will read their stuff. And every time they see a piece of AI content, they'll question someone else's content. And now you've become trustworthy because of that. So that's where my mind is taking me, is that it comes hand in hand.
You hit the nail on the head there. I think that's the misconception that I think a lot of brands have when they're using AI. They don't understand how dangerous it could be to their brand. If they're putting out AI crap out there for people to consume and people become numb to it, maybe they see an extra delve or an M dash and it's like, wait a second, that's AI content. Then they're wondering what else is bullshit from this brand, right? If they're just going to churn out AI crap and not have any human oversight or create it themselves, it's going to leave a very bad impression for the brand. That's why they just have to really tread those waters lightly and not rely so heavily. As tempting as it is to increase efficiency, in some cases enhance output, it's very dangerous to tread down those waters.
Well, what's the goal of this whole thing, or what's the whole point? Is it volume? Because if it's volume, then fine, right? Then just pump as much stuff as you want out there. Then yay, we won. I don't know, maybe you did. But for me, it's trust. Trust is the currency that we build our business on. Trust is the currency we build our relationships on. And I would not put that valuable asset on the line just to be efficient. Would you go out to networking event and send a clone version of you, a robot version of you? As much as a technology will evolve this clone to look and sound like you, I need to be there. I need to make those relationships. So if you're not going to do that in networking, why would you do that on your content? That's my feeling.
Yeah, and you hit another great point that you brought up was that post and the amount of engagement you got on that post that you did this morning about Marche. Like AI is not going to pull that from its knowledge base and understand that you had this meal that resonated with you as much as that favorite restaurant you had in Toronto, Marche. And what happened was, of course, the algorithm is going to serve that to people that are in Toronto naturally, because those are the people engaging on it. So more people from Toronto are going to get served that content. And that's a brilliant connection to make. One of the best posts I've had over the last month was a post on LinkedIn that I discussed playing rugby when I'm 44 years old. And really the importance of having physical activity and rugby in my life at the age that I'm at. Well, anybody that has physical activity in their 40s resonated with that post. And that's probably why it got a lot more engagement and a lot more reach.
Yeah, I think you and I are vibing the same direction. right? It's that like pay attention to what you say in in physical in face-to-face networking. What is connecting with you and the people you're talking to, right? I talk of food a lot. That's why it's ending up in my content, because I'm like, I know no one's doing this, but also that's all I talk about when I'm networking. So why not bring it in, right? Why not bring it in? And I think that LinkedIn is the first and only platform that is void of joy as a default setting. So what if we can actually just inject some of that in there? What if we can make people feel something and not just like, we're not always here to learn. I mean, there's a lot to learn, but every time we see a post, we want to feel something. I think that's what we should aim for.
I love the deployment of the Conan O'Brien strategy. That is at its core. That's what it is, right? The Conan O'Brien strategy. It's fantastic. It works. And so when it comes to the Conan O'Brien strategy, which we'll call it, do you have?
Do we owe him royalties for this? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe we should call it the Anthony Lung strategy instead. What do you? I don't know. But I'm wondering, do you have like is every Monday you're spending 10 minutes to create that content, or do you just creating that content when you feel like creating the content?
It's a little bit of both. Right now, because I naturally go out and eat with people, that's part of the flow, right? And I want to eat with people that are in my space, right? That I want to work with. So naturally, I'm now creating content that is interesting to and beyond just business, and also in the sphere of people I want to be in, right? So for me, that is already, I'm out doing that anyways. I might as well turn that into content. And then what I want to do more of is actually have more purposely kind of created content where some of it is more directly speaking to the pains of founders. And then some of it is going to just be directly speaking to pains of content generation in general, or content creation in general, and video creation. I think between those three, that's going to keep me busy enough. And if I can hit that kind of level, that'd be great. But right now, I've always adopted the ethos that I don't have to do anything technically. I don't have to do one post a day. I know someone who's posting twice a day. I'm like, how do you even have the energy to do this? But are you, again, we're thinking about goals. Are you creating content to hit volume numbers, or are you here to create trust with your audience? Because if it's trust with your audience, volume isn't the only play. Volume sometimes will help you learn how to create better content, or learn what kind of content is best for your audience. But so is networking in real life, you know, and so is so is just paying attention to what your audience is telling you. If we're too preoccupied by the number of posts that we're doing every day, and I've tried that before, it will drain you, because you think that you've betrayed the system, you think that you've betrayed the algorithm, and Lord Algo will not reward you for all the hard work that you put in for the last 3 years, posting every single day. It's maybe why some people keep playing the lottery, because they keep thinking, if I buy the lottery ticket, I've got to win it sometime. And that's not the case. For me, I feel like if you create with intent, that will always trump volume. If you and that's always going to be the key difference maker, especially now with AI. We all have AI in the palm of our hands. Just because you can pump out a post every 5 minutes doesn't mean I can't do it. But the difference is going to be your intent and my intent, and that's going to be the difference. That's going to be the difference that makes or breaks your content.
100%. It's I recently interviewed Yasmin Alak. I don't know if you know Yasmin Alak. He's he's a LinkedIn coach. He's 320,000 connections. And he's got like he lives on LinkedIn. Obviously, if you're a LinkedIn coach, you can spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, right? Most founders and business owners don't have that luxury. But he says don't post every day. Post 4 times a week. If you can, and to be honest, like I for a while there, prior to my new strategy, it was I had my team posting podcast clips like multiple times a day, and I was getting next to no reach on that content. I was over posting, and I don't think LinkedIn loved the fact I was using a third-party platform to post it either. The algorithm, I don't think, likes that. They want you to post natively to the platform. They want you to be real, right? And I've noticed my content has got rewarded that way. I feel I was shadow banned for a little bit just because of the over spamming of LinkedIn I was doing, but I woke up to it and it's like, that's not the way, that's not the play for LinkedIn. Much to your point, you know, it's like, look at LinkedIn like you're walking into a trade show. You're not going to send your clone. You're not going to send your robot. You're going to go in there and try to make connections and respond authentically in the comment section, respond to everybody that comments on your content, and don't automate stuff. Don't automate it. Don't. I mean, I've done that. I played that game. You know, it's even the leads that came through automation were never good. They were never good. You know, they're opportunistic people looking for freebies and things like that. They're not people that are, you're not going to close a high ticket deal typically through a LinkedIn automation, in my opinion.
I mean, you're zagging as well, man. You know, that's there's so much noise about the zig. There's so much noise about you've got to hit the volume, you've got to hit automation. If you're not automating, you're losing. I've seen a LinkedIn post about somebody trying to flog AI avatar video, and they're like, oh, you know, we can do this. If you're trying to go against AI content, then you're, what's the analogy he put? It was like, it's like going into a math competition against doing manual math versus someone with a calculator. I'm like, that's, first of all, terrible analogy. Did you write that? Obviously not. But also it's like, how dare you try to make everyone else feel small by not playing the way you play? I've learned that if there's anything I've learned in you know, doing my own business, there's more than one way to do business. There's always going to be a group, and they're always the loudest people, where they want to automate everything. They want to suck as much humanity out of it. And they want to make, I think the goal is to make as much money as possible by pressing one enter key. That's the dream. If they can cut out any human being as much as possible, they would. I'm not built like that. And I don't think we should be built like that. I think business is built on relationships. I think it's built on trust. If we don't have trust, who's going to spend anything on you? It doesn't matter how many posts you do.
The only people making money out of this would be those people that are actually the makers and creators of the LinkedIn automation, because those business owners out there see it and they're like, oh, I want that to be done for me. So they'll go hire out that agency. But do they really want that? They don't need that. You know, it's just not, it's not actually not worth it. You know, at the end of the day,
I think we're tired. I think we're tired. Some of us are very tired of the grind. And when we're given this magical solution that can supposedly do everything you're doing, but you can go sleep for another 8 hours. Maybe that's why we fall for it at first, right? When we go, oh, this is the dream. It's supposed to solve everything. But then we lose sight of what's important, which is just people.
100%. Let's talk about repurposing content. Like, for example, you know, we're in a podcast now recording long form content. This is going to live on YouTube, and we're going to cut it up and put it in obviously certain places and formats. What's your strategy around repurposing content?
I'm not going to give you all my tricks, but I will tell you one thing, is that I think that when a lot of clips are done, it's kind of like this podcast is great, right? We're having a great conversation, and if somebody's listening from beginning to end, they're invested, because then they'll listen to everything because they're invested in the first place. But when it's clips, it's kind of like what? Who's your favorite band?
Well, my favorite band, gun to my head, I will go with I love Kings of Leon. I love Blink-182.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, imagine Blink-182's opening for Kings of Leon. It's the greatest show on earth.
Great.
But you're walking in, you're late, traffic was blocking you, right? And you're walking in mid-show. Blink is playing something. You're not sure what it is, right? You're in the crowd, you're in the back as well, right? Everybody's in front of you. And you're like, I think this is good. This is my favorite band, but I don't know what's going on. That's what's happening with a lot of our clips, is that this stuff is good. But because when we're cutting things into short clips, if we don't give ourselves a new way of creating the context of the clip that we're about to see, it's really hard for the viewer to get right into it and go, that's the good stuff. Because we're already late to the show. We're mid-show. We're at the back of the room. It's the greatest show on earth. but I don't know what's going on.
Mm.
And so we go skip because I know this could be good, but I also know that if I skip and go to the next thing, it might be better.
Mm. Mhm.
And so that's my take on how creating this kind of content.
So you're saying don't create this kind of content on short form content and put it on social media platforms because it's a waste? It's contributing to noise?
No, I'm saying what is the purpose of it, and how do you set up the context for
Okay.
your viewers before you set the clip?
So more importantly than just posting the clip is the context of the clip, right?
Yes.
And setting it up, setting the table per se, writing the right copy that's kind of a cliffhanger to make people want to watch the rest of that clip.
Can you do that? Will that do the trick?
Mm.
Will a headline do the trick?
Mhm.
Will taking a clip at the end where you reveal some of the answers and it's like a bombshell, does that get people's attention to watch the rest? These are all tricks, and none of this is revolutionary. This is all stuff that people are already doing on TikTok. They're
Mhm.
already doing on Instagram Reels, right?
Mhm.
But as B2B, I feel like we're a little late to the game sometimes.
Mhm.
But it's being able to pay attention to how the language of video is changing, especially nowadays. I think as classic marketers, we're conditioned to tell stories certain ways. It's got to be the brand first, and it's got to be our USP. Then we got to shove it down their throats.
Mhm.
But then if you put that in a video and in a platform where you have to earn every second of their attention, you've lost them in the first second. So how do you get that attention in the first second of your video and carry on the next to the rest of your video?
Mhm. Do you find with LinkedIn, is it putting long form content on LinkedIn even worth it, or you just want to do the clips?
Honestly, I think that there are long form contents that could do well. But my thinking has always been, have I earned the trust of my audience to drop something long?
Mm. Mhm.
If I've done that, I will drop a 10-minute video.
Mm.
I will try that and see how that goes.
Mhm.
But until I've done that, it's going to be hard. It's
Mhm.
going to be who's this guy? Or
Mhm.
what's this content going to be?
Mhm.
10 minutes? The average time on LinkedIn, entire platform, is like 7.5 minutes. You're
Mm.
gonna tell me you want me to spend my entire time and more on this thing. It better be good.
Yeah, people are not interested in they're not sitting on LinkedIn expecting to consume long form content like they would YouTube. It's very
No,
different.
exactly.
Mhm.
It's same thing, right? It's a different stage. It's a
Mhm.
different medium. And
Mhm.
so you have to tell stories differently.
Yeah. Now, in terms of, I'll tell you how right now how I'm using AI with my LinkedIn content. Right. So for me, I like Claude. I have a Claude project because it's got a massive knowledge base. I've had it ask me these 30 questions that I have in a downloadable PDF. That these 30 questions I have AI ask me, interview me. Takes about an hour, but it gets to know everything there is to know about me, my critical thinking, my personality, my traits, my MBTI. Everything goes into it along with the way I write, my book transcript, my podcast transcripts. Everything goes in there. So I know it's not going to use words that I typically don't use, like delve, unlock, and elevate, so that, and I use my Claude, and my Claude knows the exact format that I like my LinkedIn post to be written in. So when I say, I'll say to my Claude, I'll say, write me a LinkedIn post. And a great example was today, actually. Today I wrote a post talking about how grateful I was for that one of my first clients at my original social media agency. And I wrote down all the points I was thinking in that moment, right? Like the human aspect that needs to be added to AI to make it good. I was talking about how grateful I was for them to give me a shot early on, how I used to leverage them, piggyback on them to get other clients, all these type of strategies back in 2016 I used to deploy. And then it turned out an amazing piece of content for me based on everything it has in the knowledge base, plus the context I just gave it. And that is a great way to use AI as opposed to just being like, write me a LinkedIn post about how I love sunny days, And
I couldn't agree more, man. It's like what you did was insert your own experiences, insert your own, the difference really at the end of the day. And I use AI not exactly similar way, but I like to write out the sentiment from beginning to end. And for me, and for me, I need to know how it starts, how it ends, right? And what I'm trying to say in the middle. AI is great for my ADHD brain, where so many things inspire me, but it helps me kind of put into an order. From that order, I'm not going to just press publish, right? There still needs to be jigging, but that really helps me kind of put things in order so that it gets things faster.
Does
But
AI jig it for you at all? Do you get AI to jig it? Do you give it the context and it kind of edits it for you?
sometimes, right? Sometimes it's here's a brain dump, go, right?
I love it.
Sometimes it's like, yeah, it's never going to get there for you in a single shot, but it really helps you move forward so much faster. Sometimes I would spend in the past 2 hours on a post. That 2 hour post is probably taking me 20 minutes now. So that for me has been helpful, but I would never rely on it entirely to go, oh, please think for me. Please write everything for me, and I'll just hit enter. I remember seeing a TikTok video about somebody helping her partner on LinkedIn, and her way of doing it was scraping news on from Google, then generate a LinkedIn post every day. And that's it. And she's like, look, I did it. I've got LinkedIn content every day. I'm like, but what happens when somebody pulls up on your partner and goes, hey, I love this post that you did? And he'd be like, what post? What do you mean? What do you mean I talked about like sumo wrestling?
That's hilarious, right? Like that's the scare. That's scary for a personal brand business owner to just give free reins to their social media team and AI to write all your content for you. That's a scary thought, to show up at a trade show and have somebody call you out, even during a Q&A when you're on stage talking about that sumo post. You know, it's like, man, that's like a worst fear. That's right. Why, you know, it's important. Let's talk about that, right? Because, you know, when it comes to personal branding, and, you know, especially founders of companies, when they're establishing a personal brand, I think it's more important than ever in this age of AI and noise for every founder to have that personal brand. What are your thoughts on the importance of personal branding for all founders?
Oh, it's so incredibly important. Take my client, for example, now. Now, because that he's able to, oh my gosh, hang on a second. Let me get that light back on. This is what happens when you like work in a co-working space. We're back. It's gonna be a great clip. Okay, what were we saying?
It's talking about personal branding, importance of personal branding for founders of companies.
So I think it's for founders, it's incredibly important because, you know, I'm taking my current client, for example, because he's sharing his personal experiences about building out a dental practice. He's able to connect with his audience in that way, you know, and the amount of trust that he gets from it, you know, is incredible because no one else is doing it. No one else is being as open. Not only is he getting trust from prospects, but he's also getting trust from, you know, investors, because they're seeing that it's not a, you know, it's someone that understands dentistry and not someone that's just coming in with some kind of technology and magically trying to solve problems. That's powerful. That's incredibly powerful. When we're, as founders, especially founder-led brands, we're often we're invested and we're bought because of who we are. They're buying into us as much as they're buying into the product, if not more. And so if you're able to tell that story and you're able to break out some of the points that they can relate to, of course they'll buy into you more.
Yeah, I love the example of the dental practice for sure, because with a dental practice, I mean, a lot of people are fearful of the dentist. They're putting their fingers in your mouth. You have to trust these people, right? So it's important to have that personality. And if I'm going to pick the practice that I have an affinity with because I've seen social media content from them, than the one that's just kind of that one that's random on the end of the block. And I know nobody that works there. I'm going to go to the personal brand that I'm comfortable with going to 100%. Now, a founder of, let's say, a SaaS company, I'm thinking it's a kind of a slippery slope too, because if you develop that personal brand to a point where that personal brand is the face of the business and you're looking to exit, now you're tied to that business as the founder. And then if you're a founder looking to sell a company, you don't want to be tied to it that much. You want to take a step away every day. You know what I mean? So when you're done and you're done with a SaaS company or a business, and you want to sell it, you want to walk away. So that's the danger too, right? With the personal branding, when you develop it so much so that it becomes the actual brand itself. You know,
I think you bring up a good point, because I think as much as a personal brand helps, if you neglect the actual brand, that's what happens when you rely too much on one person or two people and their personal brands, and they just take that with them when they go. So I think I wanted to bring up a food brand called This. It's a British meat alternative brand. The founders are so incredibly personable, and their brand, their corporate brand, is actually based a lot of their own personality. But after they left and they've exited, that brand continues, and they're thriving still. And so because that they're able to invest both in their personal brands and in the corporate brand in a way that's not boring, in a way that's actually resonating with their audience, it can continue on. So I would say that I'm betting so much on personal branding, but also when you're creating something that you're thinking about exiting, don't neglect that, or else that's exactly what will happen, what you described.
What's the strategy that you find winning for not personal brands, but actual brands this year? Like, what do you see working? Is there a specific strategy that brands should be deploying?
That's an interesting question. I've always thought that I've always thought that it's not about brand building is about two things. It's about showing up as much as possible and showing up meaningful as possible as every single time. So I'm going to take my own experiences at Pret, for example. Pret is a large sandwich and coffee chain. And when I was there, I my thinking around the character of Pret was that it's like the world's biggest mom and pop shop. When you walk in, you feel like it's a local shop. But man, they got shops in Dubai. They had a few in Toronto. So that's how I wrapped my head around that. But then every time we showed up anywhere, whether it's on a poster or it's on social media or the back of a sandwich, it was meaningful. There was meaningful content. It was about either the ingredients that was going into the food you're eating, or the people that's working in the shop, or the charity arm that they have where they give away leftover food. It all works there, and every time you see something, it's meaningful. So I would say that that's always been the key to success, and it's not just buying a lot of impressions. Great. Again, I feel like going back to what we were saying about LinkedIn, that's like saying post every single day or post 5 times a day. That's great. Doesn't mean anything. I would much rather, every time I show up to my audience, that I'm meaningful at some point. So I think that's the same for, same of a personal brand goes the same for a corporate brand.
So you just spoke again at the International Social Summit in Barcelona. What was your topic?
My topic was, hold on, let me try to figure this out. It was human trust versus AI. Why video will save us. It's a big ask, but
why AI video will save us? Or why
no,
video?
just why AI video will destroy us.
Why AI video is going to destroy us, exactly.
No, but it's what we're talking about this entire time was the human trust is what's at stake right now. The human trust is what's going to erode when our feed is just bombarded with AI content. And if we don't shout loud enough for team humanity, for team human, we're just going to feel demoralized and not create content. We're just going to feel demoralized and not try to break through this massive sea of noise to find the people that actually want to connect. That's going to be the challenge. But I think that my experience has been that good people find good people. But a lot of times we need to see people give us permission to shout a little bit louder.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I do these talks. I'm not saying by any means that I have a large following or whatever, but if I go out there and start doing some of this stuff and start encouraging others, maybe a version of Gary Vaynerchuk who does this will come up from this.
Well, all I know is the year that we're in now, vanity metrics mean less and less, and real human connections mean more and more. So I'm on your team there for Team Humanity, for sure, right? Hashtag Team Humanity. Are you leveraging that hashtag yet? Have you got the sole possession of it, or what? You running with it?
I tried going with Team Human, didn't go very far.
Too many Team Humans out there still. So is anybody posting or grabbing Team AI? Who's on Team AI?
AI bots.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they have us outnumbered. Anthony, always good talking to you, man. If our audience has any questions for you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Hit me up on LinkedIn. So I mean, it's a shocker, but I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram as well. My Instagram is kind of like my DVD extras. The featured film is on LinkedIn, but all the stupid memes are on my Instagram. So if you want to see the weird side of my brain, welcome to my Instagram.
Nice. How about your OnlyFans?
So if I thought about creating the world's first OnlyFans where people would pay me to keep my clothes on. I think that's.
Oh, Anthony, you're awesome, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Bro, it's a pleasure. All right, take care.
Hey, thank you, podcast listener, for checking out that episode of Drop the Mic. If you liked that episode, I would love it if you went on over to your podcast platform and left us a 5-star review. And if you don't want to miss an upcoming episode of Drop the Mic, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. Thanks again. See you soon.